I am very pleased to be able to take part in the 2012 Chai-Ying Annual Conference. Even though my age prevents me from traveling to China, I will be 101 years old in 2 weeks. At my age, life requires a constant effort. If it were not the case that I feel I have something important to say, I certainly wouldn't have accepted the invitation to speak to you today. The extraordinary market transformation that unfolded in China in the past 3 decades was an unintended consequence. This does not deny or belittle the critical role played by the Chinese government and leaders, particularly Deng Xiaoping. Nevertheless, it was not the Chinese government, but what we call the marginal revolutions that brought private entrepreneurship and market forces back to China. Private farming was introduced by starving peasants. Rural industrialization was introduced by township and village enterprises. The first urban private sector emerged after self-employment was allowed. Foreign direct investment and labor markets were first confined to special economic zones, in contrast to the state-owned enterprises. All these actors were marginal players in China's socialist economy. In the early years, privatization was ruled out. Price liberalization was also rejected, and dual-track pricing was introduced as a compromise. Moreover, socialism made China's emerging private entrepreneurship politically vulnerable. At the same time, and in a totally unexpected way, China's continuous commitment to socialism helped to bring an advantage of far-reaching consequence. Since the market economy was not the intended destiny, the Chinese leaders, who were determined to make China a rich and powerful country, were left with no choice but to take an experimental. It was this mentality, strengthened by the debate on practice as the only criterion of testing truth, that made the Chinese leaders open-minded, eager to try new things, and skeptical of any preset blueprint. This attitude and its direct influence on policy became easily to appreciate if we remember how China behaved in the 1950s in the efforts to model itself after the Soviet Union. During its struggles to figure out its own path to prosperity, China gradually broke away from radical ideology and returned to pragmatism. In this struggle, China leaned on its own cultural roots, the principle of seeking truth from facts. Even though Deng Xiaoping called it the essence of Marxism, seeking truth from facts was a traditional Chinese teaching. As we all know, China has a long history in commerce and trade. Family firms and market towns have long existed. As I learned from Marco Polo, paper money was used in China long before its use in the West. During the market transformation, China naturally found many of its traditional ideas and institutions of great relevance. It is striking to see that China found its way back to its own cultural roots in the pursuit of a market economy. What has happened in China is breathtaking. What lies ahead is a bright future. But the Chinese economy today faces a severe constraint. It is the lack of a market for ideas. This deficiency is the root of many shortcomings that the Chinese economy suffers today. An open, free market does not prevent the rise of false ideas or vile beliefs. But history has shown that the oppression of the market for ideas fares far worse in this respect. A well-functioning market for ideas cultivates tolerance, which works as an effective antidote to bigotry and conceit. In an open society, false ideas are rarely able to threaten the foundation of society. The development of a market for ideas will make the growth of the Chinese economy more knowledge-driven and sustainable. More important, it will enable China to revive and transform its rich traditions through interaction and integration with the diversity of the modern world. China will then stand as a global center of the manufacturing of goods and the creation of ideas. Some of you in the audience may well live to see it when this day comes.